Today we're going to be talking about patterns. Before we can talk about patterns, we need to understand what a pattern is. A pattern is a design that has repeated characteristics. That means that it has something that repeats, that is consistent throughout of it. It is also can be a guide to help make something. There are two types of patterns that we're going to be talking about today. The first one is a repeated pattern. A repeating pattern has a characteristic or thing that keeps repeating over and over and over again. The second type of pattern we're going to talk about is a growing pattern. A growing pattern has one characteristic or thing about it that keeps on getting bigger or that increases in number. The first type of pattern that we're going to be talking about is the repeating pattern. There are different kinds of repeating patterns we're going to talk about for today. The first one that we're going to talk about is the AB pattern. The AB pattern can be found on the second little symbol, second row on the screen. The AB pattern has two things that make up the pattern. The first thing is the A. So if we look at the end of the AB section, that same row, we have a star. So the star is our A. And I've underlined all the A's in blue so we know which ones are our A's. And then the second thing that repeats in our patterns is the B. So those B's are underlined in orange. The B in this case is the and sign. So what repeats over and over again is star and. So our pattern is star and sign, star and sign, star and sign, star and sign, star and sign. Or in other words, AB, 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 AB. And the second type of repeating pattern we're going to look at is an AAB pattern. Again, the A's are underlined in blue and the B's are underlined in orange. So this time, instead of just having a straight AB pattern, we have an AAB. So that means that our A's come up twice before we see a B. So we have a star star for our A's. So those are back-to-back two stars. And then we have the and sign. So what repeats in our pattern is the star star and sign. So we say it star star and sign, star star and sign, star star and sign, star star and sign, star star and sign. Okay? Or in other words, AAB, 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 AAB. The third type of repeating pattern we're going to look at is ABB pattern. Again, the A's are underlined in blue and the B's are underlined in orange. All our A's are the stars and our B's are the and signs. So we have one A, so one star, and then we have, like we did in the AAB pattern, but instead it's switched around. So we have two B's now. So we have a star, and sign, and sign. And we say that pattern as star, and sign, and sign, 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 star, and sign, and sign. And the last type of repeating pattern that we're going to look at is the ABBA pattern. Okay, we start out with an A, then we have two B's back to back, and then we have an A. So we have in our pattern here a star, and sign, so it's two and signs, and then another star. So that keeps repeating over and over again. So star, and sign, star, star, and sign, star, star, and sign, star, star, and sign, star, star, and sign, star. So let's look more in depth into repeating patterns. First one we're going to look at again is the AB pattern. So I have placed two AB patterns on here. The first one we have involving flowers. So we have an orange flower, or a red flower, and a green flower. So again, our A's are underlined in blue and our B's are underlined in orange. So all our red flowers are A's and our green flowers are B's. So for AB pattern, we have a red flower, green flower, and that keeps repeating. So we say it red flower, green flower, 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 red flower, green flower. So our second pattern, we have the same thing that repeats, but this time something different repeats. We have a coffee cup and a clock. So our coffee cup is the A and the clock is the B. So our pattern goes coffee cup, clock, coffee cup, clock, coffee cup, clock, coffee cup, clock, coffee cup, clock. The next repeating pattern that we're going to look at a little bit more is AAB. So we still have the same flower pattern first. So this time we have two reds back to back, because remember the reds are A's. So since we have an AAB pattern, that means we have two A's first. So we have a red, red, so two red flowers, and then we have the B, which is the green flower. So our pattern goes red flower, green flower, red flower, green flower, red flower, green flower, red flower, green flower. Then if we look at the second pattern we have, again we have coffee cup as our A and a clock as our B. So we have two coffee cups first. So we have coffee cup, and then we have B, which is a clock. So our pattern goes coffee cup, clock, coffee cup, clock, coffee cup, clock, coffee cup, clock. Let's move on to our third repeating pattern next, which is a ABB pattern. So again, we have a flower. This time, instead of having two red flowers first, we have two green flowers last. So we start off with our A, which is the red flower, and then we have two B's, two green flowers back to back. So we have red flower, green flower, green flower. And that keeps repeating. So our pattern goes red flower, green flower, green flower, red flower, green flower, green flower, red flower, green flower, green flower, red flower, green flower, green flower. And then our second one, it is done the same way. The second pattern is, except for this time we have coffee cup, and clock. So our first one, which is the A, is coffee cup, and then we have two clocks back to back for our B's. So our pattern goes coffee cup, clock, clock, coffee cup, clock, clock, coffee cup, clock, clock, coffee cup, clock, clock. And our last type of repeating pattern we're going to look at is the ABBA pattern. So again, we have our flowers. So we have our A, which is the red flower. Then we have two B's back to back, which are our two green flowers there. And then we have another A, which is the red flower. And that keeps repeating. So that pattern goes red flower, green flower, green flower, red flower, red flower, green flower, green flower, red flower, red flower, green flower, green flower, red flower. And then our second one goes coffee cup, clock, clock, coffee cup, clock, clock, coffee cup, clock, clock, coffee cup. And that is our repeating pattern. Now it's time to make your own patterns. So I want you to find some objects around your house, and they have to be two different types since we have A and B. So you can do you have to do pencils and erasers, or you can do Legos and coins, whatever you want to do with that. Or you can make them on your paper. You can draw two different types of pictures and make patterns. But I do want you to make at least two AB patterns and one of each of the other ones. It's all listed here, so you can pause this or replay it. So I want two AB patterns, one AAB pattern, one ABB pattern, and one ABBA pattern. And this is for extra practice to make sure we understand how to do repeating patterns. So when you are done with this task, then you can keep on going through this video. And the next thing that we're going to talk about are growing patterns. So we've talked about repeating patterns, now we're going to talk about growing patterns. Okay, growing patterns have something in them. One of the things like we've been doing with flowers that would keep getting bigger and bigger, or growing, getting larger, okay, becoming more. So in our first pattern, we have two types of flowers. Again, we have the red flower and the green flower. First, we start here, and with our red flower, so we have one red flower and then we have one green flower. And then we look next door to those and we have two red flowers. So we've increased the red flowers by one. We've added one more red flower to the pattern. Then we have the green flower, so we still kept the green flower the same. So what is growing here is the red flower. Okay, so next we have three red flowers. So we're adding one, growing it by one. So we have three red flowers here and still one green flower, and I've written down how many underneath that we have of each type. So next we have four red flowers and then one green flower still. So we've increased the red flowers by one throughout our whole pattern. We keep on going. So the next one that we would have five more red flowers and then the green flower, because the one more added on to four, so 4 plus 1 is 5. So now let's look at our second type of pattern with the coffee cups and clock. Again, we start off with one coffee cup and one clock. And then we grow that by then we have two coffee cups and a clock. And then we grow it even more and we have three coffee cups and a clock. And then we get even bigger and add four more coffee cups. We have 4 coffee cups and one clock. So again, we're adding, just like we did with the flowers, one more coffee cup each time that we can do the pattern. So let's move on. Let's look at some more growing patterns. Look at pictures. Now we're looking at squares. So we start off with one square, and I've written 1 underneath so we know how many squares we started with and how many we ended up at each part of our pattern. So we have one square here, one kind of brown and multicolored square here, and then we have 2 of them, and then we have 3 of them, and then we have 4 of them, and then we have 5 of them, and then we have 6 of them. So each time I've added one more square to the pattern. Now let's look at the black and white squares. First we have 1, then we have 3. Oh, wait a second. We're not adding 1 like we did in the last one. This time we're adding 2, because we have our 1, 2, 3 right here. So we know 3 minus 1 is 2, or we also know that to get to 3 from 1, we need to add on 2 more. So then after our 3 squares, black and white squares, we have 5 black and white squares because we're adding 2 on. So we know 3 plus 2 is 5. And then we have 7 for our next one. Because we know 5 plus 2 is 7. Because remember, each time we are adding 2 more on. Then our last one is 9. Because 7 plus 2 is 9. Now I want you to take out the sheet of paper that has all the cubes on them, and I want you to make your own growing patterns, and I want you to make at least 3 of them. And you should have enough paper to make 3 of them. Again, this will give us extra practice to growing patterns, and I would like everyone to be ready tomorrow to do some more practice with repeating and growing patterns.